It's rock around the clock in Cleveland, where a veteran hooper kicks up his heels as the Indians sweep Kansas City's wallflowers off their feet. Filling out the dance card in Boston, the Red Sox step out in Seaver style and sashay past Seattle. Moonwalking at Shea, where the Mets tangle all night long for a cakewalk past the Astros. And boogieing with the Braves in Atlanta, where the Big Bopper dances around the diamond 4 times. So waltz right on down. This is the place. We've got dance, fever, and more right here on the Pennant Chase. Hi, everyone. I'm Greg Lucas, and welcome once again to the Pennant Chase. Ho-hum. The Mets win again. Seems that refrain is becoming just about as familiar as the Mets lose used to be in the early 60s. Ah, well, the times, they are a-changin'. On July 4th, just before the season's halfway mark, the Mets led the National League East by 12.5 games, the third largest lead of all time and the largest since 1969. Even when the Mets are down, they're not out. Just consider this fact. They have come from behind in 20 of their 55 wins. Flash and splash in New York, where the Mets put on a grand spectacle fit for a lady. But with the score tied in the 10th inning of Game 1, Phil Garner took the liberty of putting Houston ahead 5-3. Darryl Strawberry had a chance for his second bash of the game when he came up on the last of the 10th with 1 on.
Well hit, way back, deep center field. A tremendous home run to center field. It's tied 5-5.
Then with 2 out, the Astros figured no problem when up came Ray Knight. He'd struck out 4 times in a row.
Well hit left field. This ball is out of here, and this ball game is over, and I don't believe it.
That was 7 straight wins for the Mets, who used a little syncopated 2-step the very next day. Step 1, Dwight Gooden, who ran his record to 8-1 against Houston. And Step 2, Met defense, which helped send New York to its 8th straight win and Houston to 2nd place, a game and a half out in the West. The Mets did lose the next day, but in the finale, they added some bulge to their East Division lead. Kevin Mitchell splurged on Astro pitching with 2 hits, including his 5th home run, giving him a .400 average in his last 33 games. Thanks to another part-time man about the infield, Houston was all out of sorts. Howard Johnson came off the bench to start at third and smacked a homer, driving in 2. Things were also spiffy on the mound as Big Sid Fernandez won his 6th straight to become the league's first 11-game winner. As for the Mets, 3 out of 4, and still sizzling. Now to an ex-Met who's well on the up and up. For Met fans, it was a sad parting of the ways in 1985 when Hubie Brooks was traded to Montreal for Gary Carter. Ever since his dandy rookie year in '81, Brooks had proved a valuable asset, not only in the field where he played mostly at third, but at the plate where his steady rise in production culminated in a 24-game hitting streak in 1984. However, after the '84 season came a change of address. Montreal, as well as a new job, shortstop, a position at which he had started a mere 26 games the year before.
It's not easy to make that transition. It wasn't easy for me at all, because after all, at the time I was 27 years old, I didn't think that I'd even have to change my position anymore in my career. All I wanted to do was improve as a third baseman, and then I made that switch, and it wasn't easy, but as time went on, things got better, and right now I feel really confident about it.
In his first year on the job, Brooks became the first shortstop in the league with 100 RBIs since 1960, and there's been no let-up.
There's a drive way back. It might be, it could be, it is a home run. You just don't keep stopping Hubie Brooks.
Nor Baltimore's Cal Ripken, whose successful transition from third to short served as a prime model for Hubie Brooks.
What's happened since Cal Ripken's come along was everybody's looking for somebody that can do the job that he's done. He's done an outstanding job as a shortstop, I think. And then he's done an outstanding job as an offensive player. People are starting to realize now that you can win with the guys that maybe can hit 300 for you, drive in some runs, hit a few home runs, and go out there and keep his errors at a minimum of maybe under 30 errors a year. Can still win that way.
Proof positive, Brooks has gone 26 straight games without an error, while posting offensive numbers good enough to rank among the league's best in batting, RBIs, home runs, and triples.
I think he's really coming into his own as a hitter. He has good patience at the plate. He doesn't just swing at anything the pitcher throws. I mean, I just think that he's at the point in his career where Hubie Brooks is going to become a hitter that we talk about every year.
Montreal isn't just babbling about Brooks. After all, the way the Expos are playing, they've become the talk of the town. Decked out in their finest, the Expos went to Atlanta, where they cracked 52 hits and scored 35 runs in just 4 games. And in winning 3 of 4, Montreal moved 10 games above 500 with the 3rd best record in the majors. But one Brave who refused to surrender to Montreal pitching put on a rip-roaring show, albeit in a losing effort.
Only 10 players have ever hit 4 in one game. That's one of baseball's most coveted records. Now the 3-1.
For Bob Horner, 3 home runs in 3 at-bats and a chance to join a select few who have hit 4 homers in a game. Mike Schmidt last accomplished the feat in 1976 when he sparked the Phillies to a 10-inning victory. The last player to do it in 9 innings was the Giants' Willie Mays in 1961. Joe Adcock's feat came in 54. Others include Rocky Colavito, Brooklyn Dodger Gil Hodges, Chuck Klein of the Phillies, and Lou Gehrig of the Yankees, who in 1932 became the first American leaguer to boast a 4-home-run game. In all, 10 players and counting.
Here comes Bob Horner. There are 2 outs in the 9th inning. Reardon delivers. There's a fly ball, deep left center field. Right looking up. He did it! He did it! Bob Horner has become the 11th player in baseball history to hit 4 homers in one game.
The 10th anniversary of the 1976 Cincinnati Reds, considered by many perhaps the best team of all time. Engineered by a redoubtable offensive machine, the Reds finished 42 games above 500 while leading the league in homers, batting average, slugging percentage, doubles, triples, and stolen bases. And get this, they scored almost 100 more runs than any other team. The Reds' superiority was clearly evident in postseason play as they swept through the playoffs and World Series in 7 straight games. One season, of course, does not a dynasty make. The Reds' finely tuned machine was assembled and test run in 1970. And a grand model it turned out to be, enduring the decade to win more games and more titles than any other major league team. Reds fans witnessed a total of 12 championships in the 1970s, catching their first glimpse of the Big Red Machine in 1970 when Sparky Anderson accepted his first managing job, an offer the Reds were glad he didn't refuse.
Well, Sparky was the type of guy where he just let you go out there and do your job, and somebody had to, push the button. It was Sparky in that time, 1970, when he came to manager, and then boom, we just started winning.
A vital component of the Red Machine, Johnny Bench was fast becoming a legend by 1970, leading the league in home runs and RBIs while winning the first of 2 MVP awards. Even more impressive than the numbers was the maturity he exhibited as a young catcher.
Really, I never see nobody come, I mean, from the minor and young like Johnny and do what he do behind the plate. I mean, he took care of everything, you know, took care of the pitchers, and he had control of the game. I mean, it don't look like he was 20 or 21 years old. He's just a guy who came to the big league to stay and be a superstar, and it's what he did.
29-year-old Pete Rose brought quite another style to the 70 Reds. In collecting 200 hits for the 5th time, Rose was all hustle and drive as he sparked the almighty Reds.
After our 100th game, we were 70-30. So that shows what kind of start we had in 1970. And no team has ever been 40 games over 500 after 100 played. I know that they always talk about the 75 Reds or the 76 Reds, but we were awesome in 1970. And I remember that because that was the year that Perez had 90 RBIs at All-Star break. And he, like, single-handedly staked us to a 10-game lead by All-Star break. And we didn't play very good baseball the second half. We had some injuries to Wayne Simpson, injuries to Gary Nolan, injuries to Jim Merritt, our starters the second half of the season. So we were sort of injury-ridden as a pitching staff going into the World Series in 1970.
Baltimore, though, was well equipped, thanks in great part to Brooks Robinson, who almost single-handedly brought the Red Machine to a halt in 5 games. But Joe Morgan helped recycle the Reds when traded from Houston in 1972. Despite his small stature, Morgan was a man for all seasons. Superb in the field, on the bases, and at the plate, the Reds' spark plug reached his peak with Cincinnati in mid-decade when he won back-to-back MVP awards.
He was the guy who got on base, and soon he's in second. And then he come out with the bases loaded, and he drove in. I mean, he drove in more than 100 runs, and he scored more than 100 runs. He hit more than 20 home runs. He hit 300. I mean, what you ask? The guy here, you know, steal 40 or 40-some bases. He was everything.
But nothing was more frustrating for Sparky Anderson and company than meeting up with the Oakland A's in the '72 World Series. Gene Tennis proved the big menace in this affair, smacking 4 home runs all told, and turning unlikely hero in Game 7 as Oakland won the first of 3 World Series titles in a row. But Boston ousted the A's from series play in '75 to face the Reds. And it was Bernie Carbo's pinch hit in Game 6 which began a series of unforgettable events.
Regardless of winning or losing it, and I hate to lose, but it was just a fantastic game to be a part of. And I remember the swing before Bernie hit the 3-run home run was about the worst swing anybody could ever have. And the very next pitch, he hit the ball out of the ballpark, and that tied the score at 6-6. And then, of course, a couple innings later, Carlton Fisk hit the home run over my head by about 80 feet to win the game.
The great drama featured a twist in Game 7. With the Reds down, it seemed the sun had set on their hopes. But they came within a run, and then came Tony Perez.
I wasn't looking for that pitch, that blooper pitch. It lead through me, but I went back on it, and I hit it, and we came back. And then after that, the rest of the guys took over.
It took a rally in the 9th inning before the Reds finally overcame a 3-0 deficit to become world champions for the first time since 1940. Then, maintaining their dominance through the '76 season, they breezed past the Yankees in the World Series.
This club had greatness. It should have won earlier. But it finally won in '75, and once it won it, when they went into the series in '76, there wasn't no question in their mind who was going to win the series. I knew after the second game against New York that the party was over. I mean, I never would have said that, but I knew then, and I think everybody in our club sensed that we were going to go home early. They had made up their mind. They wanted to go forward and go home. That's how good they were.
Especially Johnny Bench, who won Series MVP.
Attaboy! Get out of here! Get out of here! How about that?
Boys, I got news for you. We're going to be world champions again, Sugar Bear. I got news for you. We are now going to be world champions again.
True enough, the Reds became the first National League team to win back-to-back series titles since the New York Giants in the early 20s. From the Reds to the Blues, here now the Pennant Chase Dropout Blues. The Oakland A's lorded over the American League in the '70s, but now stand humbled. 20 games below 500 and deep in the heart of last place. The great swoon began last month when they lost 9 straight, the A's longest losing streak in 8 years. Oh, what doom and gloom in June. Nowhere were the A's more blue than on the road, losing 15 straight. Came a brief recovery, then 7 straight losses, and in close encounters, just 8 wins in 30 one-run games. As for their deadbeat offense, power broker Dave Kingman has been looking ratty at the plate of late. 4 hits in 39 times up, not to mention a slight lapse of concentration on the job. Kingman's not the only one falling asleep at the wheel. Witness this foul up. Ball 4. But hey, get back. The bases aren't loaded. All this adds up to the worst record in the majors. So goodbye, manager Jackie Moore. Hello, new skipper Tony La Russa. And farewell to this year's Pennant Chase.
What keeps the dirt out of...
All had been quiet on the American League Eastern front, with the Red Sox a comfortable distance ahead of the pack. But lately, you know, there's been a rumbling from an unlikely source, namely the Cleveland Indians, who boast a lineup of dashing young hitters. After a 10-game winning streak in early May, Cleveland wasn't supposed to be heard from again. But now, however, 7 straight wins, and the Indians have scrambled up the ladder, coming too close for comfort as far as the Red Sox and Yankees are concerned. Much ado in Cleveland, where the once rock-bottom Indians were rocking to the tune of 7 straight wins and 3rd place in the East. In Game 1, the major's largest crowd in 13 years saw Corey Snyder rock the park with one of 7 home runs since he was called up from the minors in mid-June. And rock steady has been the tribe's leading hitman, Tony Bernazard, who added to Cleveland's 15-hit batch, boosting his average to 320, while hitting safely in 14 out of 15 games. Also swinging big was veteran rocker Andre Thornton, who continued his hitting spree, going 4 for 4, including his 2nd home run in 2 games. Overall in 4 games, 10 RBIs and 8 hits. Things were also moving and grooving on the mound, where the granddaddy of rock, Phil Niekro, rolled off, beating the Royals, who went on to lose a club record 10 in a row. As for the Indians, 8 games above 500 for the first time in 6 years, and hoping to rock around the clock till October. But hey, not so fast, say the razzle-dazzle Red Sox, who keep on burning down the house. Looking for a suitable power plant against Seattle, Dwight Evans found his swing in the 4th inning of Game 1. That was a 3-run homer for Evans, who put the Sox ahead to stay. Pitching strategy also went according to plan, as rookie Jeff Sellers picked up the win. But next day, the Sox lost to Seattle for the first time this year. In Game 3, Tom Seaver helped put Boston back on beam en route to his 2nd win as a Red Sox. Seattle Blues only got worse when Tony Armas hit one out to stretch the Sox lead. And in taking 2 of 3, the Sox raised their first-place lead to 8 games, opening up more legroom in the East. Roger Clemens brought his 14-1 record to work next night, but there was trouble in paradise caused by an Oakland outburst. Rookie Jose Canseco used his clout in the 6th inning to deliver home run number 20, while raising his RBI total to a league-leading 70. Dave Kingman made it back-to-back home runs, as Clemens made his earliest departure of the year while falling back to mere mortality. On now to Texas and the still scorching Rangers. Opening up a little daylight atop the West, the Rangers took 2 of 3 from Detroit. In Game 1, Larry Parrish radiated with long ball fever. Parrish's 13th home run provided early company for the scoreboard. And in keeping it from getting overcrowded by Detroit, Jose Guzman gave up 1 run through 7, getting just the backing he needed. Still more able assistance came from the relief ranks as Greg Harris pitched 2 perfect innings to pick up his 15th save and keep Texas a half game in front. Texas got on the ball next game, and the joint was jumping in the 4th inning when Pete O'Brien started a shower of power with a homer. Next up, Pete Incaviglia.
And here's a towering drive. Oh! Let's see where that one goes. Maybe 50 rows up in there.
2 batters later, Larry Parrish came up.
And a ball hit deep, way back in left field. A home run. Well, 3 home runs in 1 inning. All of a sudden, lightning hits for the Texas Rangers.
By the time the storm passed, the Rangers had moved 8 games above 500 at Texas for the best home record in the West. Time now for headline makers around the majors. In a 2-fold pitching swap, Toronto traded Doyle Alexander and Jim Acker to the Braves for Joe Johnson and minor leaguer Dwayne Ward. Steve Carlton ended his brief absence from baseball when he signed with the Giants. In his debut, lefty fizzled, but San Francisco rallied with a 6-run 8th to beat St. Louis and move a game and a half up in the West. Philly pinch hitter Jeff Stone doubled and then homered in the 3rd inning against Cincinnati as the Phils cracked a record-tying 7 extra base hits in an 8-run inning. Now the pennant can wait for big league mishaps causing a mess of trouble.
Trouble, trouble. Well, I'm old enough to know the score, but I'm young enough to want some more.
Just about wraps up this week's edition of the Pennant Chase, but a couple of final notes. While the world champion Royals were losing 10 straight, things weren't even close. They were outscored by 42 runs. Ouch. See you next week with our All-Star Game edition of the Pennant Chase.